guys, welcome back to the Leverage Advantage Show. And today we're really humbled, honored, and grateful to have Dr. Alex Mehr with us. Now, if you've been on anywhere on Instagram, you definitely would have seen some of his ads promoting MentorBox. Now, Alex Mehr is a serial entrepreneur, investor, and startup advisor. He's currently the CEO and co-founder of MentorBox, an online education platform and physical book subscription company. To date, he's launched over 30 products or companies and has done over $1 billion in revenue. That's billion with a B. I don't have a cold, right? And in 2017, he realized that none of his accomplishments would have been possible if it wasn't for what he learned from his mentors, whether they're authors, entrepreneurs, or even CEOs. Now, everybody knows that the current education system is outdated, but Alex decided to actually do something about it instead of watching from the sidelines. So MentorBox right now is the primary learning platform for thousands of students across the world. Thank you so much for joining us, Alex.
Thanks for having me.
Alex, I really love your product because I, for one, I'm a huge advocate of mentoring, right? I've benefited hugely from mentoring. In fact, I know for a fact that the current education system doesn't adequately prepare anybody for adulthood. There's so many things they don't learn, and I think that I know that everybody needs a mentor to teach them things that they don't learn in school. Share with me a little bit about how you came about executing the idea of MentorBox.
Yeah, I went through years of the school system. I got my PhD in engineering. But then when I decided to start my own company, become an entrepreneur, all of a sudden I realized that none of the things that I was learning at school were actually useful in real life. And it's not just business, it's also soft skills like leadership, inspiration, teamwork, delegation, how to calm yourself, all these. And even basics of, financial competency, none of these were actually taught in school, surprisingly. So I started reading a lot of books. I've been reading books all my life, but especially once I got out of school and started to become an entrepreneur, I started going through books like crazy because I wanted to learn all these things to become a successful entrepreneur, and I did really well. So naturally, I started gifting a lot of books to my friends over the years. All my friends have received books from me. Instead of, a lot of people take a bottle of wine or something like that when they're going to a housewarming party. I always take books. But then I realized over the years that people actually don't read the books I give them. They like the idea of the books. Everybody knows that reading books is good for them, but they don't actually do it. You know what I mean? Now, there are a variety of reasons. One of them is that it takes a lot of time. Two, a lot of people are not really good at reading. They're not fast at reading. They just don't have enough time. So I was like, okay, what if we created a service where we took these great books and we turned them into video, audio, and kinesthetic learning, like make them more available, more fun, and faster. And that was the seed of the idea. And the rest is history.
I really loved that business because in 2012, my business partner and we started a company called Street Smart University, and the idea of that company really is to democratize a lot of the non-academic learning, because we used to go to a lot of seminars, and they tend to be very expensive, anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 US, even $30,000 US. And most of the people who really needed that education just didn't have access to it, whether they didn't have the time, they didn't have the money, or they just didn't know that it was available. And so we went on this journey to create an online platform to deliver learning like that. Eventually we failed for multiple reasons. But to me, I always ask my students, right? So what's the opposite of success? And a lot of them will tell me the opposite of success is failure. I was like, no, if you think the opposite of success is failure, you've got it wrong. The opposite of success is quitting. Failure is just a stepping stone to success. There is no single successful person that has never failed before, right? Yeah. And it's really how you learn to respond to that failure that propels you towards success. And so that's really the reason why I love your business so much. What were some of the biggest challenges, though, that you faced in building MentorBox?
Yeah, MentorBox is interesting. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've built several companies, like one big one at least, like a sizable business before. Yet I struggled at the beginning of starting MentorBox with two things. One, getting a lot of these top authors in, because think about the chicken and egg problem, right? So, before you have customers, convincing the authors to come on board was a little difficult at the beginning. Nowadays, it has completely turned. So, everybody is coming to us now. The second thing I struggled a little bit was which is interesting in the age of, in this day and age, I still have to tell people, trust me, there is watching videos, listening to audios of authors talking about their books is as good as, is if not better than sometimes reading the book itself. And I'm a big advocate of doing all of them, but it's just, every time people are faced with a change in the way things are done, people are resistant to it. So they're like, what is wrong with books? I'm like, there's nothing wrong with books. I've been reading books all my life, but who said we can't improve on books? Like, why not? You know what I mean? So that was the first thing, but we overcame both of those objections, and the company is very successful now. And people are starting to see that, okay, books are great, but you can always improve on books. Imagine, this is how I explain it to people. You have an expert, in this case, an author, and one way to articulate their thoughts is through books. But that's not the end of it. These guys have other things that they know. There are other ways they can communicate the same information, video and audio being the main ones. And that's what we do. It's actually a very simple business model once you're past those initial hurdles.
Awesome. And tell me, what excites you most about your industry, about your business?
What I like the best about it is the impact on people's lives. I have customers from all walks of life, beginners, people that haven't built businesses, or, it's not just for entrepreneurs, honestly. It is for people who want to improve. Anyways, entrepreneurship is just one aspect, one vertical. And when these people write in and they tell us that this is what happened, we have parents that have learned parenting techniques on MentorBox. We have people that have learned techniques to control their stress through proper breathing and through our lessons. So when I see those success stories, and also business successes, like entrepreneurs that have become really successful, I mean, it helps me wake up in the mornings and go to work. So.
And you weren't an entrepreneur your whole life, right? You worked for NASA. You had a wide range of experience. What made you take that shift from being an employee to becoming an entrepreneur? What was that turning point?
Yeah, it's interesting because I grew up not wanting to be specifically an entrepreneur. I grew up wanting to be a scientist. So growing up, I always wanted to be a physicist and work for NASA. And I got my PhD in engineering, and I started working for NASA. But then I realized and the more I learned about business and entrepreneurship, the more I liked it. And one of the things I teach actually in one of the workshops in MentorBox, I call it regret minimization. Meaning if you are not sure about something like entrepreneurship, for example, try it once. See if it is for you or not. And I tried entrepreneurship and I never went back. So that's what happened.
Again, this is the Leverage Advantage show, and let's talk a little bit about leverage. Right, we were having just a quick conversation before we turned on the recording, and I just wanted to ask you, what's one big tip or advice for anyone, say, in business, to obtain leverage in their life?
I give you two tips. Tip number one: pause before you act. Before you do anything, before you make a move, before you create a Facebook ad, before you start building your webpage, before you do whatever, before you get married, pause and think. Like, just it's like that intentional saying, okay, I'm going to build this product. I'm going to take the leap and quit my job to start a company, or whatever is the decision in your life. take an intentional moment and actually think about the decision that you're gonna make and try to be intentional about it. A lot of times people just do really, make life-changing decisions without really thinking through them. Think deeply. That's one. Pause before you act. But the flip side of it is that don't be pausing and don't no acting. So you need to say, like, I'm gonna think on this for 10 hours, for 1 day, for 2 days, you know what I mean? But then you want to act too. But it's just some people never act, they're just thinking. And some people don't think and just act. You need to do both. So tip number 2, educate yourself. And to me, the way I did it was through books. I didn't know anybody. I didn't have any successful business people in my circle that I could go learn from. So I read a lot of books. And that's actually why I created MentorBox too, because I wanted to kind of create that tool for others. But I'm not really here to talk about my product. I'm here to talk about the concept of constantly educating yourself. Because let me tell you this, you can make one educated move and you will win against another person that makes 10,000 uneducated moves. So you make one good move, it's like jujitsu. That's the best way to think about it. It's not about sheer force. It's not about sheer number of hours. It's not even about hustle or, whatever. It is about knowing what to do and when to do it. So it requires like an intentional, deliberate, it's almost a form of art, just like jujitsu. It's like you need to know the techniques and you need to apply them at the right time against the right opponent. Makes sense? So that's what business is.
I love both those tips. I'd love to share a little bit about my experience because what you said really hit home, especially number 2, right? So I've been in business all my life, ever since I was 17, but I didn't get to learn about business from my parents because they're both employees. So I had to learn a lot by trial and error. And, we all know how painful, time-consuming, and expensive that is, because a lot of people don't realize, sometimes they look at hiring a mentor and they say to themselves, oh man, it's so expensive to hire a mentor, assuming that mentor charges, they say it's so expensive. But expensive compared to what? Expensive compared to spending 10 years trying to figure it out for yourself. Expensive compared to losing hundreds of thousands of dollars if you didn't have a mentor. And so in 2015, I had been doing okay in business. I make about an average of $2,000 to $4,000 a month, and that's average. That's okay. In 2015, I met my mentor, Christopher Duncan, and he said, "You guys." He said to my business partner and I, you guys are making 6 figures, so the 6 months before we made about $136,000. And he said, you should easily be making 7. You're talented, you're smart, you guys work hard, you should easily be doing 7. And I said, yeah, of course, but we don't know what to do. So he said, yeah, sure, you know what, I'll tell you exactly what to do. All it's going to cost you is $60,000. Now, bear in mind, before that, about 2.5 weeks before that, we had been working together to run an event in Singapore, and in 2.5 weeks together, we made about $46,000. And we were thinking to ourselves, well, if we made $46,000 with him in 2.5 weeks, imagine what we could do in 12 months. So we didn't have $60,000, of course, but we said yes, we did it. We renegotiated. We said, let's stretch it out over 12 months. And he said, yeah, okay, let's do it. And with just that one decision, everything changed, right? He showed us a lot of the things that we didn't know. Like, for example, the values that got us to where we were, the values that got us to $100,000, 6 figures a year, were the same values that are keeping us there. If we wanted to raise the game, we need to change our values, and we didn't know that. So he helped us with that. In 3 months, we did $250,000, more money than we probably had ever made in our entire lives, right? And all it took was a mentor to come in and show you exactly the steps that you need to take that you don't know. And so I 100% agree with you there, right there.
Yeah, one correct move, one correct decision, one. It's what you said is exactly right.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
The best one that somebody told me years ago, and it took me a while to come back to it. This, like, which ended up becoming my regret minimization framework. They told me in life, in when you look back, you only regret. And I think this is a quote, but he was actually using it to tell me what I should do. You only regret things that you didn't do. So that is probably the best thing that that I've ever heard. And in my life, every time I use that framework, meaning I do things, I try things. Like I try things. Not that and if they don't work, great. It's just, I also want to be able to cross things off my list, but I try things. And then if they don't work, at least I don't regret that I never tried it. Does that make sense? So I think that is the best thing that someone told me many years ago, about 15 years ago. And over time, it always stayed with me.
Awesome. And who inspires you?
Bruce Lee. Have you heard his quote, "Be like water, my friend"?
Yes, be like water. I love that
Yeah.
one. What does that mean to you?
It is literally, I say that in business all the time. I'm like, guys, I don't know the answer, but I promise you one thing. If you're not too stubborn, the answer will reveal itself. We just have to be open-minded and it will reveal itself. And a practical example of that would be, sometimes we don't know what is the right sales pitch for, or the headline for a product, right? I'm like, why are we killing ourselves thinking what the world wants ahead of time? We just put a few of them out there and let the market tell us. It's a very practical thing, and I love that quote. Bruce Lee has a bunch of quotes that I really like. The late Steve Jobs is another person, obviously, that has inspired me quite a bit over the years. So
Awesome. I 100% agree. I love Bruce Lee's wisdom. Everybody thinks he's just a martial arts guy, but a lot of his philosophy, a lot of his concepts are very applicable in life, in martial arts, in business.
yeah,
And like you said, like a lot of times when somebody asks me a question, especially like when we're doing a marketing campaign for a client, people ask me, so, how do you think this headline will work? I say, I don't know, but I'm willing to test it, right? Just put it out there and see how. If it doesn't work, if the market doesn't like it, we come up with something else and we test it again, and we just keep testing and I'm willing to keep testing until it works.
right, exactly.
So I think this is a very pertinent question specific to your business. Everyone in business should read this book. What book is that?
7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Awesome. Late Stephen Covey. Brilliant book.
Yeah.
And all right, we're going to do a couple of quick fire questions. Now we're coming towards the end of the interview. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and I just love for you to share with me what comes right in the top of your mind, right?
Okay.
What are one of your personal habits that you strongly believe contributes to your success?
I do one important thing every morning before I leave the house, right when I wake up. The thing that I think is the most important to do that day.
And how do you unwind?
Reading books, if you consider that. Before going to bed, I read books, and that really puts me to sleep.
If you had your time again, what would you do differently? And this could be a normal answer, yeah. But if you had to go back 10 years, what would you do differently?
10 years, I would think bigger. If I go back 30 years, I would start thinking about business earlier in my life.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Really, I just got one last question for you. If you had 30 seconds left to live, what piece of advice would you give?
Live happy.
Awesome. That just takes 2 seconds, right? Live happy. Most powerful 2 words ever.
Just be happy.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Alex. Now, if people are interested in finding more about you, where should they go?
Okay. For MentorBox, they should go to mentorbox.com. And to follow me, the best place is Instagram at Dr. Alex. Doctor is spelled out.
DoctorAlex.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for spending the time with us. I really appreciate it. We're very humbled. We're very honored, very grateful to have you on. I know that the audience will have such an amazing time listening to your to your video, to your podcast. And thank you so much, Dr. Alex.
All right. It was a pleasure.
Hey there, thanks so much for checking out this video. If you enjoyed it, check out the relevant video here, and don't forget to subscribe to us for more marketing tips, techniques, strategies that are working for us, or just more behind the scenes fun. See ya!